Good morning, world. Hello, Mongoose and Meerkat fans. It's author, the Meerkat man, the Mongoose man, Grant Malcolm ILRATH, coming to you live on this Tuesday, the 14th of April, 2026, directly from South Africa in the Western Cape, around Oudtshoorn, in my private reserve, the Meerkat Magic Valley Reserve of the Meerkat Magic Conservation Project. And there we can just see where Artemis 2 has recently returned from, looking magnificent, well before sunrise. And of course, as you all know, it is either very late at night or very early for most people. It is now 8 minutes past 6. This is the man behind the hand. Good morning, everyone, or good evening. This is to show you what it is like in the life of a wildlife research biologist and nature conservationist. I qualified as a professional nature conservationist in 1993. Wildlife research is not for the faint of heart. And start very early, usually at about 3:30 a.m. in summer. But now at a Peninsula, the Yellow Mongoose Magic Valley Reserve here of the Meerkat Magic Conservation Project, since 2008. It is also the home of an undisclosed wildlife hotel. Yes, friends, correctly, a wildlife hotel. Creating beautiful networks like earthworm mammals. Yes, everybody helps to maintain these homes, and I am at one of them right now. Only a few people in the world know the location of this particular area in the reserve. A big shout out to my colleagues in Italy, Associazione Suricati Italia, and the president of the Conservation Association, Asia Chili, and Alessia Torchini, who have both visited the reserve and have been at this exact location. It is not revealed on any maps. No GPS markings have been given out. You are seeing what few people would get to see. We did film here live in December 2025 to see the beautiful Ungulungu Meerkat group, which is very famous. I've been protecting them in the area since 2001, and they decided to give birth at this very location where I'm standing, within a few meters. Group is alive and well. It is an unbroken family line extending decades that I have been studying. Yeah, since we've got earliest meerkat or mongoose will be waking up, I decided to give you a view of what it's like. Let's have a little listen, and a big welcome to you all out there. Thank you for the likes and the shares. I do appreciate it. Thank you to our great sponsors who have gifted our conservation project. All right, let's have a listen to what is called white noise. Ecotherapy, the natural sounds. Listen to the pre-dawn chorus, friends. Thank you. Coming to you live from Africa. I can tell you now, out of all the billions of people on this rock, we are making wildlife live stream history right now. There's no other live stream with wild meerkats and wild mongooses, especially of such famous ones, streaming right now. I hope in the future, depending on our followers, to bring you additional content of our beautiful meerkat families in the wild and yellow mongoose families. The reserve is home to a myriad of wildlife, including porcupine, ant bear, aardwolf, honey badger, bat-eared foxes, cape foxes, black-backed jackals, caracals, the cape leopard, baboons, vervet monkeys, the reedbuck, the steenbuck, the common duiker, and nearby in wildlife reserves adjoining the Meerkat Magic Conservation Project, we have eland, kudu, springbuck, impala, giraffe, and many other larger game species. My fascination is with these small digging mammals in particular, because they are the ones most in need of our urgent conservation efforts, since many of them are out of sight and therefore out of mind. The world beneath our feet, the world of the digging mammals in particular in this area. The porcupine, Hystrix africae australis, in case you're wondering out there, international viewers, there are 12 official languages, and that's the last I checked, in South Africa alone. That means there are an incredibly large number of common names per species. In wildlife research, we need to focus on one specific name so that we can avoid confusion. Although many of the scientific names are being reclassified through genetic research primarily, taxonomy is changing. I will give you an example with the porcupine. So, I mentioned Africae australis. So, Hystrix africae australis, the porcupine, the largest rodent species in South Africa. They live in these wildlife hotels. Many people misunderstand them because they never get to see them in the wild. It's getting light enough now to start to see some of the landscape. Way off in the distance to the south, we have the Outeniqua mountain range, which acts as a barrier between us in the Little Karoo, die Klein Karoo, and the Garden Route, Mossel Bay, Dana Bay, Sedgefield, Plettenberg Bay, Hartenbos. A big shout out to all our neighbors out there. It's quite often raining and overcast with a big thick cloud bank over the mountains. And then here, there won't even be a trace of cloud cover. That's how the Little Karoo is, a microclimate. Going back to the porcupine. Die Stechelschwein, our German friends out there. Stiegelvark, our Dutch friends. Eystervark, our South African, Afrikaans-speaking friends. That's one of my favorite names for it, die Eystervark. To translate for our viewers who are not Afrikaans speaking, Eyster is iron, vark, V-A-R-K, is pig. So the iron pig, very descriptive of this incredibly tough, spine-covered mammal. Right, that's only one of the inhabitants of this particular wildlife hotel. They all dig holes here and they all maintain it. Why do I call it a wildlife hotel, you might be wondering? It's quite simple, friends. In a wildlife hotel such as this right here, there are many different entrances and many different tunnels going into many different rooms or chambers. Some have the penthouse suite, others are on lower levels. The fact is they do not share the same rooms or chambers, just like a hotel, but they all share the same structure. It's getting light enough to see some of the sand in front of me now. Look at that. Yes, it's just getting light enough now. It's too cold still for meerkats or mongooses to be up, But of course you might wonder, but surely you won't be able to see anything with all your talking, Grant. I talk deliberately because the animals here all know my voice over decades. I'm part of the neighborhood, just like a strange bird to them. And this morning I decided to bring myself out here and share this with you. There are no Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, etc. Lunedì, martedì, mercoledì, giovedì, venerdì, sabato, domenica. To my Italian friends, buongiorno. Passo una bellissima giornata. Again, shout out to Associazione Suricati Italia, one of our most valued sponsors, all the way from Italy, and they have visited the reserve on many occasions. We sometimes go for walks 15 plus kilometers into the wilderness where nobody else has been before. And when I say before, that potentially could be ever. We walk in incredibly secretive areas because we follow incredibly secretive wildlife. There are no radio transmitters, radio collars like BioTrack from Britain or Telonics from America used here. In the Kalahari Desert, where I spent 7 years doing research with the Large Animal Research Group, LARG, in Britain, Cambridge University. A big shout out to Professor Tim Cluttenbrock, probably one of the most famous wildlife biologists in history. Together with the Mammal Research Institute, MRI, big shout out to our friends there. The University of Pretoria, South Africa. This is a joint international research project in the Kalahari Desert I established along with other colleagues back in 1993. You may have seen the world-famous films that have come from there, including ones with me in the BBC film, National Geographic films with Nick Stringer, BBC with Simon King, on my other study site here, Discovery Channel with Nigel Marvin, First Class South Africa Travel Program International with Henry Cole, Richard Goss. There have been numerous films, and if you've seen any Meerkat films like Meerkat Manor, you're watching my study sites or sites that I have worked on or I'm associated with in some way. Or you may see me in some of the films as well. I prefer to give you the real, not the fake AI nonsense, as I prefer to call it, artificial deception. You heard it here, friends. That's right. These are some of our neighbors calling now. Let's have a listen. Thank you for the likes, friends. Thanks for the follows. I do appreciate it. Usually, I'm on my YouTube channel, which has over 2 million views. You're welcome to visit there. You can check out the links on my profile. Our Cape Cobra video had 1.2 million views. That's Nadja Nivier, for our friends out there, herpetologists, snake friends in particular. All right, now we're getting to see the Great Black Mountain Range to the north. Let's see if we can zoom in there slightly. Oh yes, we can. Look at that. What we call the old man of the mountain, or the slumbering giant. I'll pan across. Looking to the left, you can see the forehead, the eye, the nose. He's lying flat on his back looking up at Artemis II's adventures recently. What a view. That mountain range is covered in snow, mostly during the winter months here, because this is a winter rainfall area. Thank you, friends, for the likes and subs, follows and shares. I do appreciate it. Yeah, if you're a wildlife friend, please do check out the YouTube channel. You can also go onto Facebook and see Meerkat Magic Moments and Mongoose Magic Moments. The group is free to join. For those who would like to ask me questions, you can check out my social media. Drop me a comment. Where are you watching from? I always enjoy knowing where our fellow earthlings are right now on this rock. It's a beautiful pre-sunrise. Yeah, let's identify some of the sounds that you may have just heard. All right. That crack is the Cape Francolin. It's a small brownish bird about the size of a chicken. To give you an idea, very briefly, they're terrestrial birds, ground birds mainly, who seldom fly. Unless they are alarmed, they are very important neighborhood watch individuals. Everybody out here interacts with everybody else, and everybody is trying to make a living off everybody else. The Meerkats from the Ungulungu Meerkat group, and the Mongooses from the Tsabokolori Yellow Mongoose group, and the Shongololo Cape Grey Mongooses, are all what I call the hunted hunters. Perhaps you have a copy of my book, or you are an owner of it, or have seen it. The Meerkats book from 2016, published internationally in New Zealand, Australia, and of course, Britain. You can get a hold of a copy. Check out the ISBN with my name and details in any good university or library. If you would like to check out our scientific publications with Cambridge University and the Mammal Research Institute with Prof. Skinner and Professor Tim Clutton-Brock and myself and other colleagues, you can check out my Facebook information for the links. All right. In the distance, we heard the Hadida ibis earlier. Most people in South Africa are familiar with these birds because they are part of the pre-dawn chorus. The ha-ha-ha. That's an onomatopoeic name, the Hadida ibis. Ha-ha-ha. So the name of the bird is similar to the sound it makes, like the bok makiri in this area. Now I'll give you the scientific name, the bok makiri, Telophorus zeylonis. Of course, that doesn't sound at all musical. Hadida ibis, Bostrichia haggardash. Absolutely hideous scientific names. Unfortunately, in my line, as a wildlife research biologist and nature conservationist, we need to know the scientific name so we avoid confusion with our international colleagues. If I talk about a Bostrichia haggardash, every other scientist and ornithologist on the planet who knows about birds will know that's the Hadida ibis. I prefer to call it, for our South African viewers, and you're hearing it here first, die jaarvoël, or the motivation bird, because ja, J-A in Afrikaans in South Africa means yes. So it's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, yes, yes, yes. That's the Hadida ibis, the yes bird, the motivation bird. Of course, this is the home of the Stone Dojo Gym, martial arts dojo, eco gym, outdoor gym, the only one of its kind in the world. A large pyramid of rocks marks its location, and yes, you can Google search for that from anywhere on the planet. However, it will not reveal the locations of the wildlife I study here. The gym is open to the public. It's a community gym that I run as a charity for all of the local students in the area surrounding the reserve. You can Google search for Team Shongololo. Team Shongololo and the Stone Dojo Gym to find out more details there. Please drop us a line. We also have a YouTube channel for the Stone Dojo Gym. Or come join me in a workout. Yeah, of course, that will happen later. Way off in the distance is the Meerkat Mansion. So let's see if we can zoom in now that it's a bit lighter. Yeah. All right. Way off there. That's my wireless antenna. A big shout out to South Cape Wireless in the Western Cape. Thank you for your service, making our live streams possible out here. in this very remote off-grid area. All right, as you can see, the Wildlife Hotel for our patient viewers who've been watching for quite some time already. It's getting light enough now, but it's still too cold. Light enough now, but it's still too cold. Up when it is warm enough, and then I call the first one up the weather forecaster. You can check out over 1,600. In fact, yeah, we've just gone over 1,700, 1,700 plus videos on the YouTube channel. If you'd like to see more details about that, or check out the Meerkat Manor and other films that have been watched by millions of viewers around the world to get a better idea of what it is like to do wildlife research. My colleagues and friends in the Kalahari Desert as well. Big shout out to you all. There you can see some of the Wildlife Hotel entrances. That one up there is a penthouse suite. Yeah, porcupine have been making holes here. The ant bear might vacuum cleaners on legs. Yeah, which is of course a non-scientific description, and I enjoy doing that. Out here you will have the real wildlife documentary. No AI deception, as I've mentioned. And of course, the behind the scenes in science. So, no post-edit, pre-edit, predetermined scripting. What you see is what I'm seeing. It's like you're all here with me, my lovely friends from around the planet. Good to have you with. I decided to come back and share some love on TikTok. Usually I do my live streams on our main channel of YouTube. I do enjoy seeing all of our lovely people out there. If you're in South Africa, what are you doing up so early? Go back to sleep. You don't have to be up yet, surely. Come on. For our viewers in America, of course, that's a much more sensible time of the day for most. All right, the little karoo. Beautiful, beautiful little karoo. We've experienced a terrible drought lasting over a full year of 2025, and recently it was broken by 26 millimeters of rainfall. And I'm delighted to tell you, and you are the first to know this news, as of yesterday morning, the Meerkat Magic Valley Reserve River is flowing again. And yes, to our gym friends out there for the Stone Dojo, that means you can come out and swim and camp again on the reserve. Yeah, camping is available. And no, this is not a tourism site. It is a gym site and a research biologist site. But I do take visitors to the gym, and wildlife research biologists and film crews visit here. All right, it's getting light enough. I am currently standing in an ancient riverbed. Like in the Kalahari Desert to the northwest of South Africa, the Nossob and the Ayob and the Kuruman riverbed, these are such ancient riverbeds that they seldom flow. That, and some of them might only flow every 40 to 80 years, that is the distant bank of the river system. All of the geology here is absolutely critical to understand, because without understanding that, we don't understand the plant types, the flora, or of course the beautiful fauna, the animals that live here. Those bumps in the distance are in fact part of the distant riverbank. It is an enormous riverbed system here, one of the biggest in the Little Karoo, in fact. Few people are even aware that they are living in a riverbed system because they are out of the flood zone. However, these are mainly calcrete, kaolinite soils, lots of clay, iron oxide, the rust. And in this area where you see the light patches of sand, that is because the sand has been dug up from deep beneath the ground, many, many meters, 3-4 meters deep under the ground, where our earth excavators like the porcupine and the ant bear, the meerkats, the aardwolf, Protellus cristatus for our scientific friends out there, Mellivora capensis, the honey badger, Canis mesomelus. Oh, those names, Canis mesomelus. black-backed jackal. And yes, I know they changed the scientific names. I still use the original ones that I learned, because they keep changing the names. But if you Google them, you will still find the current names as well as the older ones. The Cape Fox, Vulpes shama, not to be confused with our Vulpes vulpes, our British friends out there, the red fox. All of them live here in this area. As I scan around, welcome to our newest viewers. It's the man behind the hand, as they know me. And you can see my comfort this morning. I brought out one of my chairs. Yes. Often as a wildlife research biologist, we will be out from 3:30 in the morning in summer and only return after 8 o'clock in the evening. In the Kalahari Desert, that was a common occurrence for myself and my colleagues. Coming back to this particular wildlife hotel, for those who are watching the stream, you will now be able to see the details. You can see all of this beautiful greenery starting to come out after the recent rainfall, before all the termites had eaten away the plants. And here for our entomologist friends, yes, I haven't forgotten you, no. The termites are not ants. Yes, often called a reismier in Afrikaans, which would directly translate to a rice ant. It is not an ant. It is related to the cockroach. Kakkerlak. There's a name for you. Bakarot. So, these are eaten by the termite vacuum cleaner, of course. Yes, the ant bear with its massive long nose from Tubuli dentata. Yeah, dropping some scientific terms for you out there, for our fellow scientists. Yes, the ant bear, Erycteropus, an incredibly shy and secretive species that lives here in the reserve as well. Most people will spend their entire lives never seeing any of these animals, simply because the animals do not want to be seen by humans. That is how they have managed to survive in these secretive locations, right next to people. And why meerkat magic is called meerkat magic, because no other person on the planet recorded meerkats to be in this valley except myself in 2000. Government conservation, a shout out to you colleagues out there, said no, meerkats do not occur in the Little Karoo. They're over that mountain range in the north because it is often covered with snow, as I've mentioned earlier, in the winter. Therefore, how can there be meerkats in an area like this? They are around sand dunes in the Kalahari Desert to the northwest of South Africa, not mountains like this. But they were all wrong. Now, of course, many people around the world understand this. And if you look at my Meerkats book, the first conservation book in history on meerkats, published again in 2016, you will be able to see the old man or the slumbering giant with snow over him, giving him that white, hence old man description, and of course the Ungulungu meerkat standing in front of the mountain range. Yeah. Next time you're in the Little Karoo of South Africa in the Western Cape, have a look out for the old man of the mountain range, friends. All right, it's still cold. There's a lot of moisture in my breath, a lot of water vapor, and that means it is too cold. It's under 16 degrees centigrade right now. Yes, I do have a digital thermometer at the house, the Meerkat Mansion Research Base, and we monitor temperatures of burrow systems. Incidentally, since I've been telling you about the Wildlife Hotel as I do 360 panoramics for your pleasure. Yes, thanks for the likes and subs, shares. Everybody, I appreciate it. All right, you're getting a unique view of wildlife research before sunrise, and I'm going to let the stream continue as we move towards sunrise before much longer. Ah, yes. Beautiful morning. And back to the hotel system. All right, wildlife hotels such as this have dozens of entrances and exits because animals need to make sure that if they go into one hole, they can escape from a potential predator. Yes, the snakes are the most dangerous of all of the predators when it comes to meerkats and mongooses. And you heard that correctly. If you're wondering, one mongoose, what's the plural? It is not mongai, it is not mongoose. It in fact comes from the Indian mongo, not from the English mongoose. Therefore, does not follow the naming protocols like with birds. One goose, two geese. So it's mongooses, friends, in case you've been wondering, in case you have a test out. Yeah, so right now at this particular wildlife hotel, it's about 10 degrees warmer beneath the soil. It's like an electric blanket or a duvet. But in summer, it can be 10 degrees cooler beneath the ground than the surface temperature on average. So it is a beautiful area for wildlife. In the Meerkat Magic Valley Reserve, we are creating additional wildlife hotels for animals who have lost their habitat due to ploughing over it by previous land usage or developments. Animals cannot simply dig up another hole to escape from predators. I'm going to mention two predators for our ornithologists, our bird friends out there. Starting off with the fastest animal on this rock that we're all on right now. As I like to say, a big shout out to our fellow time travelers, genetic time travelers. We're all going around the sun on this rock. We're all traveling, the ant, the cockroach, the mongoose, the meerkat, and these birds I'm about to tell you about, which are the fastest in the world. The peregrine falcon. Please drop a comment if you've heard of the peregrine falcon. Are you familiar with it? It can reach speeds over 384 kilometers an hour, friends. You do not want to be on the receiving end of a peregrine falcon if you are a meerkat or mongoose. And that is why these burrows are absolutely critical for their survival, so they can escape from predators like that. Unfortunately, there could be other predators waiting for them, such as Bitis irritans, the puff adder, the pofadder, Naja niviae, the Cape cobra, geelslang. Fortunately, they will not find the boomslang here in the burrows. Dyspolydus typus, tree snake, because of course, as the name suggests, they are arboreal snakes, so they don't go into the wildlife hotels. Just a little bit of love for our herpetologist friends before going back to my bird topic. There are so many topics, that's why I wrote a book, in case you're wondering why. As I mentioned to those who watched the stream earlier, I talk so that all the animals here know I'm not a stealthy predator. I'm saying, look, everybody, and I will even say it, here I am, here I am, here I am, here I am. I am not a predator who is stealthy, creeping up on you to give you a surprise. Wildlife do not tolerate surprises. They've known me for decades in this area. I'm simply the noisy neighbor, like the Hadida ibis in some ways, I suppose. Without the sounds that I make, those are actual wildlife sounds that I'm imitating just incidentally. That's where the nickname the Meerkat Man and the Mongoose Man originate from. I'm the interpreter of what's going on. All right, for our big shout out to all our wildlife friends out there. Going back to the peregrine falcon. So, the peregrine falcon that's an easy scientific name. F-A-L-C-O, falco, peregrinus, pretty much as you said, that's how it's spelt. And then We also have another falcon species out here, not as fast, about 150 plus kilometers slower, in fact, the lanner falcon. Falco biomicus, for our ornithologist friends out there. Yes, the point is, if you are a hunted hunter, a meerkat or a mongoose, you need to get to escape tunnels quickly, and that ties up the bird topic, except to say this. Imagine now, and this is a challenge for you out there this morning, my friends, and I promise you, you have never heard of such a thing in your life, unless you have been on a visit with me. You have 5 seconds to find an escape tunnel. Imagine you are a meerkat, please. That means you are only standing 25 to 30 centimeters off the ground. And you've just arrived here, but you don't know there's a wildlife hotel here. So this is your challenge, a survival challenge. Never mind, oh, Survivor television series. This is the real Survivor. No person following you around with a camera. Imagine you're an animal who has just been airdropped here. Or released. You will have 5 seconds or less before a predator finds you and makes a meal out of you. As I've mentioned, everybody is trying to make a living off everybody else. So if you do not know, and you will not know where the burrows are. I've tested this with thousands of visitors around the world who've come to visit me over the decades. The fact is, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. For those joining the stream, you might be wondering, what's this man behind the hand even on about? Welcome, you're watching a live stream with author, the Meerkat Man, the Mongoose Man, Grant Malcolm ILRATH, more commonly known as the man behind the hand, because I bring you the real unedited wildlife documentary, not this AI nonsense where people can't even believe what they're seeing anymore. Here there's no post-edit, pre-edit, predetermined scripting, as I've mentioned before. This is the real deal. All right, so why did I stop on the count of 2? Let me just give all our new viewers the challenge. So imagine a lanner falcon, a slow, or a peregrine falcon, the fast species, 384 kilometers an hour, 150 plus miles an hour, friends. Can you even begin to imagine moving that quickly? And here it comes. You've got maybe 5 seconds, if you are lucky, to find an escape tunnel before that bird has a snack on you. Yes, it'll be a bad career move if you just look around going, oh, it's a lovely day. No. Out here, every moment is a fight for survival. When the mongoose and meerkats decide to wake up this morning from one of these wildlife hotels at an undisclosed location, they will be facing constant danger throughout the day, and that is why they have incredibly complex survival mechanisms. You can check out my YouTube channel with over 1,700 videos, a quick shout out there, and you will find out more details about some of those as well, because there are too many to describe in detail now. All right, so lanner falcons, peregrine falcons who are attacking, you need to find an escape tunnel. Now, if you've just arrived in their area, where do you run to? If you make a wrong choice, that will be the last choice you ever make out here as a meerkat or mongoose. So, for those who think you can simply release wild animals back into a wilderness area, you would be wrong in thinking that you are helping them, because you are basically signing their death sentence warrant. Yes. If there are meerkats in an area, they will find the new arrivals and kill them. There's no tolerance between meerkat groups. Intergroup aggression, meerkats can fight to the death. For any of you thought, oh, cute, cuddly, inverted commas or air quotes when I use anthropomorphic terms. What a mouthful. Anthropomorphic terms or anthropomorphisms, human terms describing animal behavior. In other words, scientific terms, no. These are what many scientists don't like hearing, but I like to use them because I bring you conservation through education. Yeah. We take the information from the scientific publications and make it available to the public. or what I like to call open source research. Again, you can find my scientific publications with Cambridge University Large Animal Research Group and the Mammal Research Institute, University of Pretoria, South Africa. Online, you will find many of these, and in the libraries all around the world. I'll give you an example of a brief part of a publication, The Evolution of a Cooperative Sociable Breeding Mammal. What a mouthful. Yeah. And I can say that because it's one of my own publications with my colleagues. Many landowners who live in these areas have never heard of such a scientific paper. Now, what good does that do, I ask you, because I'm a nature conservationist in South Africa first, a wildlife research biologist second, if that information is not made available to the public? For example, what is this? Why should I not, as a farmer, plow over this and plant crops? Oh, they're just holes in the ground, after all. You can see just holes. No. An entire inheritance spanning potentially hundreds of years. With meerkats, it is passed down from mother to daughter. It is called a matriarchal structure. With meerkats, the females are the leaders. You heard that correctly, friends, just in case you're wondering. With meerkats, females, not the males, are the leaders. Please drop a like and a sub if you like that, and share. Yeah. You get that with elephants as well. Meerkats have a matriarchal structure, and thanks for the hearts. I appreciate you. Big love to you as well. Yeah. They have also what is called a matrilineal system. What? Some people have asked me, what do you mean a matrilineal? What is that about? Stick around, my friends, as I drop some knowledge on you, perhaps something you've not heard of before. Matriarchal, of course, female-led. Females inherit with the meerkat groups. The oldest, most experienced female becomes the leader. Yes, it's an interesting one that it's not about the size and weight of the meerkat. It's about how experienced they are. Why, Grant? I can easily demonstrate this. Females inherit territories. That means they know where the wildlife hotels are. There are dozens of hotels all over. Many of them are covered in plants and no one gets to see them as a casual passerby. Unfortunately, when it's out of sight, it is out of mind and exceedingly difficult to protect when people don't know there's anything there in the first place. For example, if I tell you the following fact. The Tsebokolodi yellow mongoose group is the only mongoose group of this species in the entire world right now that I can walk with and that anybody else can walk with without using radio transmitters or collars to track them, because I know their movements over a decade plus of research on them already, since 2008. I'm going to skip around. We're not going all the way around clockwise. I'm going to shake it up a bit as we do our panoramic views and go back to the burrow. It's starting to warm up. We might start to see some inhabitants of the wildlife hotel waking up. Yes, they will be coming up just around here. For those who watched my live stream in December, 2025, of course, you will have seen the very first live stream in history of wild meerkats and their babies as they emerge for the first time. Yeah, it's on the YouTube channel. We filmed it live. Over 50 minutes of live stream, and everybody who is watching, like you right now, are part of a wildlife history being made. This is already the longest wildlife stream on meerkats and mongooses right now. Let's have a look. There they are, friends. Quick. Check it out. Yes. The Hadida ibis, for our friends watching from earlier, you will know this. I said pre-dawn chorus. It's still pre-dawn. The Hadida ibis, the Bostrichia hagadash, or as I call them, the Jaarvoël, the motivation bird, the yes bird, because in Afrikaans, again, coming back to a point earlier, Hadida, onomatopoeic, the sound similar to the name, ha, ha, ha. I call it the ja bird, ya. In other words, yes. It's the motivation bird. Of course, this is the home of the Stondojo gym, as I mentioned earlier. I think I'm going to give a little shout out to our Japanese friends out there. Yes, I haven't forgotten you. Konnichiwa. Totemo yoi tomodachi minasan. Kudasai homon utsukushii Shotokan Karate Budo Dojo. Domo arigato gozaimashita. Sayonara. Totemo yoi tomodachi minasan. Just a little shout out and an invite to my Japanese friends out and fellow martial artists. This is the home of the Stondojo gym. Yes. Coming back to the Wildlife Hotel. As you'll see, there are so many points on end about what's going on here. I'm the wildlife interpreter here. That's what I do. All right. Yeah, that's right. And as the osmotic potential increases, it is ready to suck up the water, as I mentioned, like a sponge, and the succulents of the succulent karoo are full of salt. And once it rains, done just recently, in fact, on Sunday, these succulents absorb water rapidly. And then when you squeeze one of these leaves, the water is no longer milky in appearance, it is transparent. Many of these are edible, and in fact many of our tortoise species eat them as well. Meerkats will occasionally, although they are small carnivores, eat small amounts of these leaves in the extreme drought just to get some moisture. They get most of the moisture from the food that they eat, like the juicy Coleoptera larvae, the beetle grubs. Yes. Pre-dawn chorus, moving on now as we hit sunrise in a few moments' time. And you'll be able to see an African sunrise with me in the Meerkat Magic Valley Reserve. I can see the first tendrils of light licking the Outeniqua mountain range. Look there. And there, again, is the Meerkat Mansion and the Wi-Fi antenna, the biggest antenna for a privately owned area in the Little Karoo, on a rooftop. Yeah, because this entire area is in a riverbed system. To get Wi-Fi signal here, many years ago in 2008, when I started this reserve here, we needed to get a massive antenna that could actually be higher than the riverbank system to get the signal over it, and then have no idea of what they've not. And that's why I do these wildlife streams, because coming back to Exhibit A, let's move on. The 2 seconds I got down to. A prey item like a mongoose or meerkat, you will have under 5 seconds if you are lucky to find an escape tunnel. Fortunately, there's an entire labyrinthine network of escape tunnels all around. And if you grow up in the area, as I was mentioning, like with meerkats, where the mother is the most experienced and she knows where all the sleeping areas are and where to go, and the escape tunnels scattered between the sleeping areas. One day her daughter will inherit the territory from her and she will know all of these areas. I've been asked many times, and I'm talking about thousands of times over the decades, well, why don't the males become the leaders with meerkat groups? Why is it not patriarchal? Why is it matriarchal? Quite simply because of the following. The females know where to go. So if there's a female meerkat and she decides to move off in a direction, she knows where the safety is in that direction. The male does not. He is not from that territory originally, because there's no inbreeding or incest within wild meerkat groups. You heard that correctly. There's nothing strange about that. For genetic viability and survival, related meerkats do not breed in the wild. The dominant male and female, the alpha pair, are unrelated. The male meerkat that you see as the leader is not originally from that area. He has moved there. The dominant female that you see there is from that area. She will inherit the territory from her mother. And a male will move into the territory, find her, follow her, because he doesn't know where to go. Just the same as none of you, my friends, will know where to go here either. If you were a meerkat or mongoose and I gave you that 5-second challenge. 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, and here we are. 1 second. Time is up. Career move if you are a meerkat or a mongoose and you don't know where to run to, because I assure you the predators know where to find you and they will not hesitate. They will not be basically going the equivalent, again, non-scientific terms here. Oh, it's a lovely day. I'm not going to come and eat you. They will not hesitate to eat you. So, just a shout out to everybody out there who has been in the Kalahari National Park, in the Kalahari Desert. Please do not climb out of your vehicle and walk up to our research biologist colleagues, as you have done to me as well, because there are lions and other predators, excuse me, in those areas. We know where they are, as do the meerkats that we are watching, because they are identifying predators all the time. When we're with them, we know where all the danger is. But humans who stop and see wildlife research biologists wandering around seemingly lost in these predator-dense areas, please do not climb out of your vehicles and walk up to us. If you see, most research biologists will be wearing uniforms with identifying epaulets, green epaulets, for example, like I used to wear in the reserves that I worked in. If you walk up to one of those research biologists, you potentially could become a snack for a wild animal who has been watching you climb out of your vehicle. Yes, so please do not try this at home, as the saying goes. All right, in the north, we have the first rays of light creeping onto the Great Black Mountain Range. Yes, everybody, the Great Black Mountain Range, die Groot Swart Berge of the Little Karoo. And in case you did not know, this is part of a World Heritage Site, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And here we have the sunrise creeping up. Beautiful. YouTube just checking, am I some AI bot? No, YouTube. They do this as well. No, TikTok and others. This is really happening. This is a live stream pre-sunrise. For all our friends who've been watching, I just had a TikTok asking me if I was a bot. Drag the puzzle piece or we will cut your live stream. Yes. Now, this is the real deal. This is the behind the scenes in science. I was just telling you before I got rudely interrupted there by the puzzle piece questionnaire. That is the UNESCO World Heritage Site. Thanks for the love out there, friends. I appreciate you. I appreciate the likes and the shares. So, it is part of the Cape Floristic region, all the way to Cape Town. Yes, in the west. Shout out to our Cape Townian friends out there. Beautiful place you live in. Cape Town, Table Mountain, the Macchia, M-A-C-C-H-I-A. Yes, that's the English name, strange name. Macchia, M-A-C-C-H-I-A, for fynbos, which most people who are familiar with that area know it as fynbos, F-Y-N-B-O-S. Proteas, ericas, leucospermums, pincushions. Why am I telling you about that? And UNESCO World Heritage Site Complex? Because that is it right there. Succulents of the succulent karoo, Macchia or fynbos are ecosystems of plants. And that's already two. There's another one here called the subtropical or succulent thicket with Portulacaria afra for our botanist friends out there. Die spekboom, the pork bush, as some people call it, or the elephant bush. Few meters high, succulent, up in the rocky areas. And no, the meerkats do not live in those areas. It is too rocky and their sleeping burrows will cave in or collapse. They prefer the very soft Soils in some places people think no, they're like the compacted, almost cement, concrete-like soil, the calcrete, the chalk deposits, the kaolinite clay. But those three ecosystems of plants, again, succulent karoo, subtropical thicket, macchia, and fynbos, all intersect like interlocking circles called hotspots or ecotones in the Meerkat Magic Valley Reserve of the Little Karoo. And there we can see the Outeniqua mountain range I mentioned earlier. It is less than an hour's drive to get to the sea from here. Shout out to our friends in Mossel Bay and Dana Bay and Hartenbos and Sedgefield and Plettenberg Bay and all these beautiful areas just over that little mound. Here comes the sun, my friends, and a very good morning to you. Yes, welcome. So, I mentioned you'll have 5 seconds or less to escape into a wildlife hotel such as this if you are a meerkat or mongoose. Unfortunately, one of the most dangerous predators of the meerkat and the mongoose is the snake. And the snake species, specifically I was mentioning earlier, Nudgeniviae, the Cape Cobra, one of my viral videos, 1.2 million views in under 24 hours. Thanks, Google. We get paid advertising revenue on Google platform YouTube now because of a snake. So the animals here are all earning an advertising revenue. It's a fact. Through Google. Can you believe it? Out here in Africa, Google is paying the cobra and the puff adder, basically. Puff adder video, Betis irritans. Puff adders have cytotoxic venom, cell-destroying venom. No, meerkats are not immune to snake venom, my friends, as many people believe. That is incorrect. They have a very high tolerance to venom. They are not immune. If they were immune, high dosages would not kill them. So, snakes, like puff adders, which are ambush predators, they can strike within a 30th of a second. Can you even begin to imagine how quick that is? Do not try pick up a snake, please. If you see them, leave them alone. They have a critical ecosystem. Yes, there are many, many snakes that live here. And as I mentioned, they earn an income for my conservation work. And that income I also give to the local inhabitants. The children in the area who visit the Stondojo gym know this very well from Team Shongololo. You can check them on my profile. The Stondojo gym and Team Shongololo. Here comes the sunrise. Here comes the sun, little darling. Here comes the sun. And yes, all the animals here are even familiar with my crazy singing. Just thought I'd drop some love for you out there. Yeah, they all know the voice. There's a little test for you, my friends. Try that at home, why don't you? I'm going to give you a crash course in one of the meerkat sounds, which means everything is fine. There are over 36 different sounds that meerkats make, and we have recorded them. We know the meanings of the sounds. It's like a language. Please think about a cat or a dog, how few sounds they make. Growling, barking, whining, etc. Now think of 36 different sounds. Yes, it is a language. That's where the nickname comes from, the Meerkat Man and the Mongoose Man. I've worked with banded mongoose, the most sociable mongooses on the planet, living in groups of up to 60 in Uganda, where I worked in '97, on the equator of Africa, Queen Elizabeth Park, surrounded by the Virunga and the Ruwenzori Mountains and the Kazinga Channel. Beautiful. That is wild, I can tell you now. Shout out to Jason Gilchrist. Dr. Jason Gilchrist did his PhD on the banded mongoose. And I was fortunate enough to visit him and help him with his research there. I left the Kalahari Desert to go to Uganda for that purpose. He was trampled by buffalo on 2 occasions. Buffalo is like a wild equivalent of a cow. One of the most dangerous animals on the continent. If you disturb them, the likelihood is they will end your career. Yeah. All right, beautiful sunrise. He also had cerebral malaria. As I go into story mode, gather around, children. Yes, we are all children on this rock. Doesn't matter how old somebody is. We're all just children. And as I like to say, we don't get older, in fact, we just level up. Yeah. How many times have you been around that molten orb on this rock that we're all on, this space rock? All right, I have been studying wild meerkats professionally since 1993. And of course, all the other animals and plants. Ooh, there we have a beautiful Plosius vellatus for our ornithologist friends. The masked weaver calling. Oh, beautiful. I also see a fork-tailed drongo, that's F-O-R-K, Dicrurus adsimilis, not Ludwigi, not the square-tailed drongo. Very secretive birds. There it is, sitting up there. All right. Sunrise. Usually the first licks of the sunlight across a burrow system are enough to bring out who wake up, and they will decide whether it's worth getting up or not. It's too cold or there's danger. They'll simply go below and nobody will come out. And that could go on for a few minutes to over an hour. As I was mentioning, the snakes go into the burrows. So if you are a meerkat and you even know where a burrow is and you escape, you could run right into a predator in a burrow because the snakes estivate. Please comment if you're familiar with that term, estivate or estivation. 3, 2, 1, time's up. All right, estivation is the equivalent of hibernation, but instead of with mammals, it's with reptiles, very basically. So snakes also go into these burrows when it gets very cold, and it's a dangerous place, and that is why when meerkats arrive at a wildlife hotel and mongooses, they first check very carefully to make sure it is safe to go into these areas. And they will scent mark the entrances. That's why in my videos you will often see me talking about and hear me talking about it and watch me talking about it and see the animals I'm watching and filming doing it, posting scent messages, or what I like to call SMSs, scent short message systems, smellogram. Yes, shout out to Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, technocrats out there. Instagram, have you heard of smellogram? This is the Smellonet. Out here there's a network of smell, my friends. And the reason I mentioned these multi-billionaires is because with all the billions, they did not invent this. The smellogram network has been going on longer than we've even known about any of the technology we currently take for granted. The smell network of the wildlife, they've been using it for a long time. This is basically the equivalent of a smell cafe, a smell internet. Animals will be posting messages and checking for new messages throughout the day and night. Stay out of my territory. You have been warned. Or you can come on in. There's a breeding opportunity there for the dominant male or female. I was mentioning meerkats earlier with the matriarchal structure. The females are the leaders, not the males. If the male dies, the dominant male, the mother will not breed with her son. Other males from other groups will smell that there is a vacancy, and they will be unrelated males, and they will form coalitions, moving from group to group in search of unrelated females. And if they find an unrelated dominant female and there's a vacancy in the smell network and they track her down, they'll become the new dominant male. Male meerkats do not get chased from groups. They leave, they migrate. Female meerkats, big shout out to you, friends. Yes. Female meerkats are evicted. They are aggressively chased out from one group where they are born, and they will try return, because if they live long enough, they will inherit that from their mother. Any moment now, we might see the first heads popping up. Meerkats, mongooses. This is a big wildlife hotel here. There are dozens and dozens of entrances and exits. Yes, Africa's sunrise right here. Beautiful. I have been up since 3 o'clock this morning. That's when my research morning started. Thank you to everybody who has joined the stream already. Thank you for the love. Thanks for the hearts and the shares. I do appreciate you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day, no matter where you are, or a wonderful evening. All right, I also see the Cape turtle dove, the laughing dove as well. It's not the same species. The Cape turtle dove, Streptopelia capicola, has a black stripe around its neck. Our ornithologist friends again will know that. That's for you guys out there and gals. Streptopelia senegalensis. So the laughing doves, you've been hearing them in the distance, and the Cape turtle dove. A Dutch visitor of mine said over a decade ago on a visit, the work harder bird. In the morning, they called them the work harder birds, onomatopoeic, work harder, work harder. And then he said, I remember this, it was brilliant. This is in about 2004. In the evening, it is the drink lager bird. Drink lager, drink. South Africans will be familiar with this, no doubt. This bird, Cape turtle dove. All right, moving on. Thank you to all our friends who have joined the stream so far. I do appreciate you. It's good to see you out there, fellow earthlings on this rock that we are all on, as we watch a beautiful sunrise. Ah, there, I can hear the bird now. Ooh. Are those? Yes, we'll see them closely. Aha. Egyptian geese. Sunrise is playing havoc with this zoom. All right, there they go. Shout out to you, my friend, Eugene Fourie from Klein Karoo Heening, Little Karoo Honey. He has over 30 bee hotels, as I call them, in the Meerkat Magic Valley Reserve. We have organic honey out here, raw honey. It's the best you'll probably ever taste. If you are in the area, look it up. Klein Karoo Heening. You can check him out on Facebook as well. Yeah, I work with the farmers in the area. I work with all the local inhabitants. Conservation is for everybody. It's a sustainable resource out here, and we do the management in the reserve to make sure it is enjoyed by all. All right, I'm going to have a seat here now. Oh, what a pleasure. Yes, over the decades, I do enjoy some of the luxuries like having a chair now. These are not just any kinds of shoes, by the way. There we go. I'm wearing my winter clothes already. Summer here can get to over 45 degrees centigrade. Sometimes even hitting 50 degrees centigrade, where the road surface will melt. I've seen that happen in a December, midsummer, and I've also seen snow on the mountain range to the north in summer in Oudtshoorn. Yes, snow in December, can you believe it? On the Great Black Mountain Range that I showed you to the north, again there, and to the Outeniqua Mountain Range to the south. There. Snow. Getting back to my shoes, what's that about? Yeah, what a pleasure to be able to sit down. I hope you're comfortable out there as you are all sitting on my shoulder looking over it. That's what it feels like to me. I've taken out thousands of tourists from around the planet over the years, but now I prefer to do live streams where anybody could potentially be with me without potentially disturbing the wildlife in the area. Of course, we could not have hundreds of people watching these secretive animals. Can you see that? Yeah, still a lot of water vapor in the air. It's still too cold, even though the sun is up. If it was not so cold, meerkats and mongooses would have been up about 30 minutes ago, just before sunrise, just on sunrise. They will even get up if it is warm enough. Winter, it can drop to well under freezing here. So to put that in perspective, in this area of the Little Karoo, there's an extreme variation in temperature. Ooh, look at you, beautiful. Hello. Oh, black-headed heron. That's an unusual sighting at this time of the day. There you go. Hey. Ardea melanocephala. We also have Ardea cinerea here. Grey heron. Ardea Goliath. The Goliath heron occasionally visits after flooding in the area, like we had in 2023 and 2024. Welcome out there, friends. It's author the Meerkat Man, the Mongoose Man, Grant Malcolm McIlrath, and I'm at an undisclosed location in my private reserve watching a wildlife hotel. Of course, part of what I do as a conservation biologist is demographic data collection, so you are part of it right now. We record activity periods of the wildlife. That's the most basic kind of data here. For example, what time they get up, what time they go to sleep, and what the weather conditions are like. So today, there's not even a breath of wind at the moment. You can see these thorn trees here. This thorn tree was not even here when I started work here in 2008 in this particular wildlife hotel vicinity. Yes, Acacia Karoo is the old scientific name for them. I don't bother to keep up with the changes in scientific names because if you Google the original ones, you will still find all the new ones that they keep putting out there. When I did my conservation course and qualified in 1993 in South Africa, the understanding was one scientific name instead of dozens and dozens of common names for the same species. And then they went and changed the scientific names. Morris capensis, Sula capensis, Cape Gannet, just a quick example. They've also changed Canis masomellis. Oh, what a pest. Except if you use Google, of course, you will find all of the variations out there. Sunrise, for those joining the stream, you might be wondering, what on earth? I'm getting blinded. What's going on? What's going on right now is you're getting my view as a wildlife respo, sitting back and just relaxing here, taking a moment to perch on my chair. Yes, these are world famous shoes, friends, and no, they are not for sale. Never mind Jordan and all the others. You can't afford these, Elon Musk. Nobody can, because they are not for sale. Why? Because these shoes have been scent marked by wild meerkats from the world famous Ungulungu meerkat group and wild mongoose from the Tsabokolori yellow mongoose group. In other words, they are part of mobile mongoose and meerkat territory. When I put these on, it's like the Harry Potter invisibility cloak. You heard it first here, friends. Yes. I can move around with wildlife because I become part of the territory. When the dominant male meerkat will do whenever he comes across them, he will put his smell, his stamp of approval, linguistic programming. Yeah, quite early. Let's have another stretch. Stand up. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Yeah, what's that about? People have asked me. My voice is NLP. For those who have dogs and cats, you'll be very familiar with this, even if you have not heard the term. When you call them, giving them their name or a little whistle when you call them, that's NLP. You're getting them accustomed to the Pavlovian theory. For example, the sound is associated, a positive association, with a reward. So when you call the dog, for example, it comes up, it gets a reward. That is NLP. I use NLP with wildlife. If you do not have the correct sounds, if you do not have the correct shoes, you will not get anywhere near the wildlife in the reserve, and it is that which protects them. These are audio and olfactory and visual association codecs, or NLP as it's more widely known in psychology. So it stops poachers from getting anywhere near animals that would otherwise just become tame and show unselective trust. It's easy to tame an animal, easy peasy, as the saying goes. To keep a wild animal wild is ethical. They only get to know certain observers, and they get to know those observers because of things like my shoes. That's why I said they're not for sale. Elon Musk, with all the billions, could not be here right now. But you are here with me. Out of the billions of people on the planet, we are the only ones watching a wildlife hotel right now before dawn with world-famous meerkats and mongooses beneath the ground. Even though there doesn't seem to be anything here right now, there are many inhabitants living here, and they all know my voice, and that's why I'm talking, because if I don't talk and call, they will not come out, because they will think, basically, what is that out there? It's a dangerous predator. I'm letting them know, no, it's the same thing you've been hearing for years and years and years. And the neuro-linguistic programming part of this story is they've never heard the sounds I make when they have been frightened or disturbed. So you first have to recognize what is a disturbed behavior. What does it look like? How do you know if a meerkat is disturbed, for example? You do not make sounds. I'm giving you a bit of the secret of wildlife research here for your interest. When an animal is nervous, but when an animal cannot see me, let's say I'm behind that tree, they can hear me. When I started working with this particular wildlife hotel, stop zooming in, TikTok camera, I was way off in the distance, over 300 meters away, using a telescope, a Nikon, 70 times magnification, and I could not make any sounds and I could not move, and the animals would come up and look at me, and shortly after seeing me as a predator, an unknown object to them at the time, they would leave, and that would be the end of my viewing. It is not like watching elephant and rhinoceros. No other wildlife conservation friends out there. Let's say there's an elephant, there it is. You can document them, you can do aerial surveys, you can count the numbers. Not so with the digging animals, because they go underground when there's any disturbance. There's no ways an aircraft would get anywhere near here without the animal seeing it and running below ground. That means identifying them and recording their population dynamics is extremely challenging, because as a human, they won't allow a human anywhere near them either. Yeah, now that may sound like a contradiction, then how can I be here? Because to them, I'm just an object, one that they've got used to over many, many years. And anyone with me is also just an object to them. For those of you out there who may have visited me over the decades, you will know the sound very well. To Professor Tim Cluttenbrock from Cambridge University, you will know the sound very well too. And I'm going to give you a little crash course looking at my shadow here. Hello out there. It's time for your little sound test. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Starting off with the basic. Thanks so much for the love. Thanks for the hearts and the shares and the follows, my friends. Yes. Here we go. First sound. Ha ha. We'll start you off on a simple one. Ha 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 ha. Please repeat after me. Sir David Attenborough has had to make the same sounds, so have many other film crews. Nick Stringer from National Geographic, our Meerkat Madness film. Nigel Marvin, Discovery Channel. And Simon King from the BBC, Meerkats: The Natural World. All had to do the crash course. At home, please. And now we add in the stutters. This basically will become your first meerkat call lesson of the day. And I've taught hundreds of people these sounds in wildlife research biology. It is critical to know the sounds around the animals I work with, otherwise you will not be allowed to see them. No visitors are allowed to visit unless they pass my audio test. Because when they're up sometimes up onto vegetation, even into trees higher than this, over 6 meters high, Kalahari Desert on Acacia area lobe, the camel thorn trees. Quite a mouthful there. They will climb up into vegetation over 8 meters high. It's getting warmer. Half an hour ago easily, if it wasn't so cold and wet at the moment. In this area with the recent rainfall, it's cooled the place down. Going back to my story. Yes, it's story time with the Meerkat Man this morning, friends. Yes. So. Planned. And you will see they will look at you because they understand you're talking meerkat. I've had many children speak to me in the past. I've done hundreds and hundreds of presentations, charity work of mine over the decades. Even in England, I've done this. And I've got children to do the exact same thing. And the teachers are like, no, keep quiet, keep quiet. I'm like, no, children, make the sounds. And then they all drive their parents and teachers crazy for weeks. It's the gift that goes on giving. Please drop a heart if you think that's strange. Yes, you heard correctly. There have been people around the world making these funny sounds. But the point is, these are sounds that the animals recognize. So going back to single note, double note, or triple note. Now we're getting a bit more challenging out there for those who get tongue twisted easily. Try this. Oh. Triple note. That means everything is fine. I saw something, but in fact it's not dangerous. That's what that sound means. So meerkat will be scratching around with its head under the ground. Again, I mentioned earlier, the hunted hunters, like in my book from 2016, Meerkats. See if you can pick up a copy on Amazon. Check out the ISBN. It's internationally published. You'll most likely find them in universities and libraries now, if you can get a copy somewhere. But the hunted hunters, when a meerkat or mongoose is digging up food, its head is often under the ground. The meerkat has a specialized ear valve, external bulle, the ear, that can expand to seal off the ear canal so no sand goes in. When it is digging, it cannot be watching out for a bird of prey like I mentioned earlier, Falco peregrinus and Falco biomicus. I hope you remember that for those who've been watching for a while. Yes. Lanner falcon, peregrine falcon. They cannot watch for those birds and look for food. So, when one meerkat is up on guard, others will be looking for food. And every now and again, one will stop and look around. and listen. And quite often, if you see meerkats in the wild, and most people never have, there will be a meerkat standing up. You may even find one standing up on a tree or an object. And they'll make sounds like this. Everything is fine, but if it is not fine, and I'll only make the sound very softly, because I don't want anyone else to hear it except you, my friends. That is, we have seen something and it is in the air. Yes, they have sounds for predators, and they can differentiate between if it is a predator on the ground or if it is in the air. Is what we call a worry call, a start of an alarm. They've seen something in the distance that even with binoculars, and again, thousands of people from around the world have tested this theory when they've seen it with me. We look and we cannot even tell what that little speck in the sky is yet with binoculars, 10 times magnification and higher sometimes. Is it a harmless water bird, like the Egyptian goose, Alapotchen aegyptiacus, that we saw flying past earlier? Or is it Polmaitis bellicosus? And there's one for you to Google. Yes. I don't make these names up, my friends. You can Google it. Polmaitis bellicosus, the martial eagle. A bad career move to stick around and ask questions if you're a meerkat and you see one of those. Yes. So, when they see something like that in the air, they can tell whether it is a bird of prey, danger, or it is harmless in the area that they've grown up in. So, if a meerkat saw an Egyptian goose flying off in the distance, it'll make a sound like, it's fine, there's nothing there. Somebody might stop and look up, it's fine, you said everything's fine basically. Again, I'm using human terms to describe animal behavior here. Deliberately, to our scientific friends out there, it's an anthropomorphic statement or anthropomorphism. I use air quotes usually, or these little gestures, inverted commas. So, it means it is not a danger to them. If, however, they recognize it as a potential threat, the guard who is currently guarding will make a sound like, everyone will stop what they're doing. Everybody. And stand up and look. And they will look to see where the meerkat up on guard is, looking. And they will all turn to face and look at the speck in the sky. And then they'll watch. The more experienced meerkats will let everyone know. Herp, 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 herp. Let me know in the comments if you've ever heard this from a meerkat in the wild. You've most likely seen it in one of our documentaries over the last few decades. But the fact is, the meerkat will make those sounds. The sounds will increase in frequency and volume depending on proximity of the predator. As it gets closer and closer, they will identify this is becoming an imminent threat. This is potentially a career-ending event. It's time to run. And as I said earlier, if you snooze, you will lose. I kid you not, friends. 5 seconds is being generous. If that peregrine falcon, Falco peregrinus, again, the fastest animal, please think about that for a moment, on the planet, 384 kilometers an hour. For our other friends out there with miles, over 150 miles per hour. That's coming down. That speck is approaching. If you are walking around and you're looking for food under the ground and you don't listen, that will be the end of your career. It's as simple as that. You snooze, you lose, game over. So, the meerkat up on guard is basically saying, everything is fine. Just like that. Or, I've seen something. It's getting closer. You only have a short time, everybody. Find an escape tunnel. Becoming an alarm bark, almost like a little barking dog. It is not where the nickname the Meerkat Man comes from. I did not give myself this nickname. It was given to me by the BBC originally, because I am basically the interpreter of what those said and simplify. I am one of them. No, that is not the objective, because the objective is to be exactly that. Collect objective data, not subjective data. If I go and make a sound to a meerkat and start telling it, oh, there's no danger, and there's no danger, or there is danger, I will be disturbing its natural patterns, and any data I collect on its dispersal between individuals or its guarding behavior, stopwatch on, there's a meerkat up on guard, stopwatch off, it went down, and we did this for thousands of hours over years and years and years. We've done the scientific applications. You can Google search for the and the Pretoria University. The point is, in the wild, they would interact with me. I would no longer become this noisy object that many people have been listening to this morning. I will become a potential meerkat, and that is not what I want, or mongoose. So I don't want them to interact with me like that. I basically want to be looking at them as if I'm looking through a window. That's it. So I do not make sounds to let them know there's danger or there's no danger. I simply let them know I am not a danger to them. And by making these sounds over years and years and years, when they are not, as I was mentioning earlier, alarmed, you have to recognize the behavior. So I would not be making my sound when there is a predator about. So I make no sounds. When they ate me, as I was talking about cognitive psychology, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, with a predator. So, no sounds. If they look at me, I still won't make any sounds. And that's where the nickname, the man behind the hand, comes from. Thanks for the hearts, my friends, and hearts to you as well. I would be making a little heart signal for you, but I'm holding the camera, of course. Okay, so we get the following. This hand gesture. It's world famous, friends. I'm not kidding. This is the displacement reassurance. It is a visual key, a code that the animals that I work with know and recognize. I've tried it with chimpanzee in Kibale Rainforest and banded mongoose in Queen Elizabeth Park, Uganda, and it works the same. You can try it with your cat or dog. Make the following sound and do this with your hand. The animal will stop looking at you. Maybe it saw a foot move and it got disturbed. Now it looks at, you displace the behavior that it was preoccupied with something that it is familiar with. And of course, the animals I've worked with know this from when they were born, right throughout their lives. They look at something that's disturbed them. Now they see this. I just go like that. The time it takes them to look away can be measured with each individual. It's objective. I can tell that animal knows me very well. It looked away within a moment. The other one took longer. So from a great distance, I'll be calling. That's one of my sounds. The others. These are all sounds I can make softly. Or very loudly, which I will not do now. But I can approach from over a kilometer away. Again, I don't use radio transmitters or collars or what I call visual pollutants. I follow the animals and I get to know their roots so well over the decades that I don't need to use transmitters or anything. This is a hands-off conservation project. No animals here have ever been touched by a human, and they never will be. Even though I can get up close to them, I will not touch them. So, a predator arrives. The animals look at me. I don't make my usual sound to say, look, I'm not the predator. I'm not the stealthy predator. I simply go like that. And they look away because they recognize it. Ah, Egyptian goose. Can we get a focus on you? Come on. Yeah. There it goes. Very quiet. That's unusual. It's been a bit stealthy, it would seem. All right. sit down. What a pleasure. What I like to call meerkat magic moments, mongoose magic moments. Sit back and relax, enjoy the ecotherapy. A shout out to Mandy Young out there, if you ever see this, maybe you're watching now. From England or Italy, wherever you might be in the world, a world famous psychotherapist, also an ecotherapist who I've worked with meerkat. She's worked with dolphins, elephants, wild dogs. The idea is if you take time out in nature, it is very therapeutic. It really is. Just go immerse yourself like I do in the white noise. Spend some time, breathe the fresh air. It's free at this stage. I imagine we were on a Mars colony, friends. Yeah, I'm sure the air is not going to be free. The Hadida ibis calling loudly. There are so many things we have for free every day, and many people are complaining about so many things. Just a quick mention about this. And they forget some of the simple pleasures that we can all enjoy. What I call vitamin D-licious. When I'm up at the Stone Dojo gym, martial arts dojo, the outdoor gym, eco gym, I remember to take time out to just sit back and relax and enjoy the sunlight, to breathe deeply and enjoy that moment. When I say meerkat magic moments, again, over 1,700 plus videos on my main YouTube channel, but there are many on TikTok as well. I've pinned 2 of them. You can have a look. I think one of them's had a few 100,000 views. You're welcome to have a look, of course. That will give you an idea of what it's like, the behind the scenes in science. But a lot of it, and this is what many people don't know about, is this: waiting. I was mentioning earlier to our other wildlife biologist friends out there, you go out, you see the elephant, and there it is. You go out, you see dawn and dusk, crepuscular. Active at night. I've seen them. Google, that is not diurnal. Will have noticed nuvolino, little cloud in Italian, the dominant male of the Tsabokulori group, getting up. Well, right now we're starting to get some of this delicious vitamin D sunlight. I wonder how many are here from the start. It's been a long view. This particular wildlife burrow is also on the opposite sound, which means the time that the animals get up here at this burrow is different to the time they get up at another burrow, which I will not mention the location of, but in the distance, over a kilometer away, is another burrow, which is on a flat surface, and there's about a 40-minute difference between what time the animals get up throughout the year. So it depends on where they are sleeping. Also, the ground is different here. There's a lot of river sand, as we are near, not surprisingly, a river system that is flowing. But further up into the hills, that way, about 3.5 kilometers from here at the moment, is another big wildlife hotel that is in compacted calcrete, which is chalk. And it's much, much warmer. We know this. The temperature beneath the ground is warmer than it is here in winter than the surface, and it is also cooler. It's a thermodynamics. So animals move to different places, the digging animals, based on what time of the year they are currently in. Thanks for the hearts. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Tamara, shout out to you, Tamara. Hello. I can see some of our comments and likes Furious George. I love the names. Keep them coming. Thanks for the hearts. Thanks for the shares, my friends. You're watching a live stream of a wildlife research biologist sitting at a wildlife hotel in a private reserve in South Africa right now. And there we have, ooh, they're coming past. Let's have a look there. Yes, there we go. The noisy culprits that you've been hearing all morning. Ooh, there they go. Yes. Oh, there they go. The Hardida ibis. Bostrichia haggardash, as I mentioned earlier. What a horrible name. Who comes up with these scientific names? I actually know some of the people who come up with them. That's a bit of a private joke. You know who you are, my friends. The fact is, Bostrichia haggardash doesn't sound nearly as good as the South African common name, Hardida ibis. Maybe some of you this morning have been woken up by the Hardida ibis already. Many people don't like the sound, but of course it's white noise. Hardida ibis is onomatopoeic. The sound that the bird makes is similar to the name it's been given. I was mentioning this a few times over the stream, so I'll mention it again. Ha, ha, ha. Hardida, Hardida, ha, ha, Hardida. Again, to our fellow South Africans and to our international viewers, ja, J-A is yes in Afrikaans. So I call it the yes bird. Ja, ja, ja. You heard it here first, my friends. First in the world. Ja, 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 ja. I call it the motivation bird here at the Stone Dojo gym. Because it is the yes bird, not the Hardida ibis. We've got our own names for things here. I don't follow everybody else's pathway. Ooh, there was a fast-flying Streptopelia capicola, also known as the work harder bird and the drink lager bird. The black stripe around its neck, Cape turtle dove. Very low flying, very rapid flying. It looks a bit like a pigeon, but it's not. It's much bigger than the laughing dove. We do have the rock pigeons here as well, incidentally, for those who have asked me in the past. We have dozens and dozens of beautiful indigenous bird species here and also very rare migratory visitors. I call them animal tourists. When it's to Europe now, for example, our swifts and swallows. That's all part of the neighborhood watch at the moment. It's time to get up again. All right. Any time now. It's definitely warming up. No more moisture in the breath. As I breathe out there, I'm not seeing the clouds of water vapor. That means it's warmed up at least 2 degrees, which is what I predicted would happen. All right, it's now just on 1 minute past 8. I've been up since just after 3 o'clock this morning. Yes, watching the world wake up around me. Now you can have a better look at the burrow. There's still shadow covering the burrow. So although it's warming up, that is still going to keep everyone asleep. Yeah. For those of you who stick around, you may get to see the Meerkats and Mongoose as they decide to wake up this morning. Otherwise, you can just watch some of my videos to see who I'm talking about. But these are wildlife hotel residents. There are no holidays or days off. When it rains, however, meerkats will be trapped inside their burrow. They cannot go out and get soaked by rainfall and survive. They would die of hypothermia. They have almost no hair on their underside, the ventral side. Yeah, the meerkats have cryptic back patterns which are unique to every single meerkat. It's like a genetic or DNA fingerprint, I like to say, and you can recognize every individual meerkat by their back patterns. So shout out, hello my friends. Yes. When a meerkat is caught out in the open, I was mentioning the sounds earlier, or they will lie flat if they cannot get to an escape tunnel in time or a sleeping burrow system with many entrances and exits, which is a safer place to get to. And they will use their disruptive crypsis or back pattern camouflage to avoid detection. When they are foraging beneath the trees, sometimes you can hear the sound for hundreds of meters away with a large group of 20 plus meerkats in the Kalahari, for example. Their shapes are very difficult to make out because of the shadow and the mottled appearance on their backs, camouflaging them. That's why it is called disruptive crypsis or camouflage. So if you're asked about the meerkat's back patterns, they are unique to every single meerkat, and it is an incredibly difficult challenge for most people. Probably not you, because I know my viewers are amongst the most intelligent viewers out there. Thank you for joining the stream. Yes. Little bit of flattery for you out there, but seriously, the fact is, these patterns on their backs, if you look at the first few markings above the tail of a meerkat, you will recognize some of the markings are opposite, some of them are staggered, but if you take an image of that first section, which is quite tricky to learn, I find, but you do get accustomed to it as a research biologist, you will never need any other mark to recognize individuals objectively without any visual pollutants like, which I'm totally against, for the record, research biologists out there, I'm talking to you. Yes. Yes. No radio collars. No transmitters. BioTrack, British. Talonics, American. No ear tags. No freeze brands, no tattoos on their animals, no heat brands, no gentian violet, no haircuts interfering with thermoregulations potentially, because every animal can be recognized through its individual back patterns. I have written this in my book, Challenging Well-Known Research Protocols, because I've done it for decades. You can recognize animals and you can follow them without putting these artificial visual pollutants on them. When I go into a reserve, I do not want to see a cheetah or a leopard with a big radio collar, ugly thing stuck on its neck. Please let me know what you think of that. Drop a heart or a like, please, if you agree. Do you like seeing wild animals, inverted commas, that have human visual pollutants on them? I don't. When I see a wild animal like a meerkat, that animal here has never been touched. It is not a tame animal like you'll find in tourism sites, which I will not mention in name here. The animals are wild. They go where they want. They are the ultimate symbol of freedom to me, and that is why I enjoy studying them as well, to protect them in their natural habitat, such as we have here. They could be anywhere in this enormous area, but they are here, in this hotel. Another way, I'll give you a little bit of a research tip this morning. On all of these entrances and exits, there are some areas that have freshly dug up sand, especially after the rainfall, which is a rare treat for us research biologists for digging mammals. We can see where the raindrops have fallen on the soil. And then we can see the tracks, die spoor, as we say in Afrikaans, of the animals over the sandy tracks. And the rainfall. It's like reading a newspaper. Yes, some people say, oh, the Bush Telegraph. Yeah, I've already mentioned smell mail, smellogram, the SSMSs. Imagine all around us, please, if you will, there is a network of smell, like a vast spider web. Imagine an infrared smell network. If we had goggles on that could see through the infrared spectrum, and if we could see smell, it's quite a bizarre concept, but please bear with me. Imagine we looked around now. All around us, there would be lines of smell where animals have walked and posted messages. Stay out, this is my territory. Stay out, you've been warned. Come on in, there's a breeding opportunity here. All around us, there are smell highways and networks posted by animals every day and every night in this area. It allows them to find each other and communicate, and they will check these messages every day and every night. After rainfall, like we've had recently, the smell has been washed away. Meerkats go on what I call meerkat missions and marathons on these days. They'll wake up extra early and they will go run off in a certain direction. That's not because they're looking for food. They are going to re-scent mark their territory. And in this particular area, it could take them 2.5 to 3 weeks on average to complete a circuit. In the Kalahari Desert, territories for the meerkats could be 5 to 10 kilometers long. Massive. However, in areas like the Little Karoo, where habitat has been destroyed largely through agricultural practices, there's very limited habitat available, and so the animals' territories are not what you would see in the wilderness spaces of the Kalahari, where burrow systems are not plowed, because that is not an agricultural area for plowing of the landscape to plant crops. It's also a summer rainfall area, the winter rainfall area, and we're just getting the beginning of the rainfall season coming in now. All of these succulents ahead of us here will be bursting into flower. Already some of them are starting to open with the early morning sunrise. Let's see if we can zoom in on that bit of yellow that we're starting to see there. Yes. And all around my feet are what I like to say are plants which I call nice from far and far from nice. South Africans will know them very well, usually because they stand on the seeds of these plants and shriek in pain when the seed sticks, or devil thorns. Tribulus terrestris and Tribulus zahiri. There's one there. Let me give you a bit of botany while we're waiting to see who decides to wake up next. Yeah, Tribulus. I say they're the equivalent of popcorn in this area, because after the rainfall, all the seeds, which are nasty spikes, pop open, and then they are no longer nasty to stand on, and they spread. But the yellow flowers, which are starting to come up on some of them, mean they're already getting a new generation of thorns coming out soon. Point being, even on an overcast day, you will be able to see what time it is by looking at the flowers. I kid you not, my friends. Yes. This is phototropism, or phototropic movement. The flower actually follows the direction of the sunlight, even on an overcast day. And you can get a very good indication of what time of day it is based on where the flowers are pointed. All right. So this whole area will be covered in magenta, yellow, white, red, orange. It is a smorgasbord. It is an impressionist canvas of color. And it's all coming up within the next few days. There's a vast amount of food now just beneath the surface for all the animals here, and I'm delighted to tell you that as of yesterday, for those who did not hear this earlier, the reserve river is flowing again. That's after a full year of drought. Egyptian geese are in fact at the river system. That's the river down there. You're welcome to come and visit me, my friends, but you'll have to pass some tests. As I mentioned, it is not a tourism project. It is for research biologists and film crews, and for those who tend my gym, the Stone Dojo gym. Yes, but you would need to be able to make some of the sounds and understand some of these behaviors I've been discussing in order to fully appreciate the animals you will see, because otherwise you will not see them. It's as simple as that. I developed these sounds back in 1993 already in the Kalahari Desert. Intellectual property, incidentally, and I have been using them for decades. Countless animals know these sounds, and in this particular area it means this is me, the noisy object that you have learned to recognize and trust. As I've mentioned earlier, to put this in perspective, if you have a cat or a dog companion, you will know that they recognize your voice or certain sounds that you make. Perhaps you're calling them up for a reward. Perhaps you're calling their name, etc. The animals here all know that sound I've just made. including many of the local birds in this area. I must say, when I do get migrant birds coming through, they can be quite disruptive because they are not from this neighborhood. They can disturb the animals that I'm watching because the animals don't recognize them. And when the birds are around, because they don't recognize me, because they're not from this area, they make an alarm. That's something I've never discussed, incidentally. You're the first to hear this. You might wonder, so what? I can tell you now, in this neighborhood, it's a neighborhood watch, there's an insect about that big, known as the cicada. Some people call them in Afrikaans die sonbessie. It makes a loud shrieking sound by vibrating its tymbals, T-Y-M-B-A-L-S, in its abdomen. There's the Hadida ibis again, the yes bird, the ya bird, ya, 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 ya. Yes, 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 the motivation bird, my friends. Ostricha haggadah. You've heard that name a lot this morning, so by now you should be familiar with it. All right, going back to this. All right, lots of points as we wait. I'm letting everybody know when they decide not to be worried by me. All right. When a meerkat is not alarmed, because it has got to know me over many years, again, it's not tame. It recognizes certain sounds and scents like my shoe here and this shoe that have been scent marked by them. They recognize me from a distance. I let them know I'm not a predator who's being stealthy. I am also not a poacher or anybody potentially going to harm you. Anybody else that they see, they will alarm to and run away from, which is what has to happen because they remain wild. It is a very, very selective trust. Now imagine this, please, as I tell you the story time session. That's the Egyptian geese calling again in the river system. The cicada. I say, and I actually have a poem in my book, the Meerkats book, called The Silent Call. It is from the neighborhood watch where everybody in that neighborhood interacts with everybody else. If that bird that is sitting up there on that line in the distance, which happens to be a laughing dove right now. Hey, there you are. If that bird suddenly flies up, that's a visual alarm potentially. If it makes a sound, which is recognized by the meerkats and mongooses as an alarm, they will react. Just so with antelope like Antidorcus marsupialis. What a funny name that is. I think these guys and gals who make these names up, scientific names, must be laughing. Antidorcus marsupialis. The springbok, die springbok. When they are walking around in the distance and the meerkats are standing next to me not alarming, the springbok do not alarm because how can I be dangerous? Of course I'm not dangerous according to the meerkats, therefore they accept me as well. I'm giving you some behind the scenes in science research methodology here. So the same is true here. That Placius velatus. We've got the masked weavers here, and we've also got Placius capensis, the Cape weaver. They're all familiar with me and my sounds, and the talking is part of that, of course. I'm always letting them know, just like the meerkats let each other know where I am at all times, so they don't have to waste their time looking at me and wonder where I am. I'm saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And as I've been here all morning already, since well before sunrise, I'm letting everyone here know I'm not a threat. So we're waiting. Waiting for the first weather forecaster to pop up their heads out of the burrow. Sleeping hotel. So, springbok and other animals in the area who see me don't alarm because of the animals I'm with, and if one of them does alarm, then they all alarm. It's as simple as that. So, the silent call, to get to my point about the cicada insect, is when it goes quiet, all the meerkats in an area will stand up suddenly because they know something has disturbed that insect. This is all associative learning. They've grown up in that neighborhood. When the whining is going on all morning on a hot day and starting at about 32 to 36 degrees centigrade, I found on average in this area, I call them bush thermometers for that reason. They hear this incessant whining sound all the time. And if it stops, there's something that has disturbed it. Because, as I say in my poem, the sneaky cicada tells no lies. Yeah, it's the loudest call of all, the silence call. Because if all the animals in the area become alert because something has disturbed the cicada, it is an early warning system in the neighborhood watch. Just so with the Cape Crow, it is not dangerous to the meerkats or the mongooses, but if it is calling, there's usually something like Meerkats bellicosus, martial eagle, or lanner or peregrine falcon, pale chanting goshawk. Here's a name for you. Please Google it. Meerkats canoris, or canoris. Meerkats canoris. Pale chanting goshawk, die bleeksingvalk. Or Elana ceruleus, blowvalk, black-shouldered kite. These are all Meerkats, the martial eagle. Aquilivero also occurs here, the black eagle. And Haliaeetus vocifer. Yes. Dropping some scientific names on our ornithologist friends out there. You might wonder, what? There's no ways you get a Haliaeetus vocifer out here. But you would be wrong, because there is a river here. The fish eagle. I'm not going to make that sound louder. When the fish eagle calls, the meerkats and mongooses become extremely alert. Yes, these are opportunists. Many birds that people think, oh, they only eat fish. No. I don't advise you try that out if you're a meerkat or mongoose. Imagine that. Yeah. Basically, anything unfamiliar in a territory is not trusted. That means, if you were to release a meerkat into the wild, firstly, it's illegal, by the way. Secondly, if there were no meerkats there, there's a reason for it, because they could be there and they will use all the territory they can. If there are meerkats there, they will find that meerkat and kill it, for sure. And if there are predators there, they will find the meerkat and kill it, because it doesn't know what is dangerous or what isn't dangerous. And here is something I'm going to tell you about. In the Kalahari Desert, meerkats will alarm at Egyptian geese. Yeah, we know that it's a harmless water bird, but they so seldom see these birds. That's quite a tongue twister there. So seldom see. Bit of alliteration for you, my friends, this early morning. Yeah. The Egyptian goose is basically perceived to be a threat, and they will make the same alarm call they make to it that they do to the martial eagle. Because it is all associative learning. That is why meerkats in an area recognize what is dangerous and what isn't dangerous, because they've grown up in that area. They learn this from a very young age, from everyone teaching them. When they see something, they make a sound, and the babies learn that that thing and that sound go together. I'm just putting it in very simple terms here. So if you take a meerkat from the Kalahari Desert, which is a different subspecies, it's a very light in appearance meerkat subspecies, compared to the ones here, which are very dark subspecies. Firstly, they could not survive here, even if they knew the predators and everything about the area where to run to for safety, and there was space for them, because they would stand out. They would be too light against the dark background here. They would not have their camouflage benefits. If you were to take this darker subspecies and put it in the Kalahari Desert, it would not survive either for the same reasons. And that is why I'd like to tell you, IUCN, Red Data Book, your information is incorrect. Yes, I've already said about Google as well being incorrect, saying the yellow mongoose is only diurnal. No, And IUCN, you are also incorrect, because you cannot document a species that is a burrowing animal by flying over an area or walking through an area. If a human, other than myself, were to randomly walk through here, there's no ways they will see the animals in the neighborhood. Who knows? That is something not to be trusted. They don't recognize it. They just go below ground or run away, fly away. And then somebody collecting data goes, oh, there's nothing here. There's nothing here. Yeah, there's a lot there. You just won't see it. And that is why the data is absolute garbage. And that is also why to say it is not a threatened species is incorrect, because you need to break it down into specific areas. This subspecies is highly endangered, because going up into the Addo Elephant Park, a shout out to the beautiful park as well. Much of the habitat has been highly colonized by humans and farmed for generations. So it is not comparable to the subspecies in the Kalahari IUCN. Yes, you're hearing it here for the first time. Yes. To go and say, oh, but that one is abundant. There's no destruction of their burrows by plowing. It's not an agricultural area. How is that in any way comparable to a subspecies in an agriculturally developed area? It is not comparable is the point, obviously. But unfortunately, it does not seem to be obvious to the researchers who have posted their incorrect information. And I will tell you, researchers, if it is incorrect or not, from my dozens of years of experience studying these two different subspecies in the different habitats. And that is why I wrote the first conservation book about this, 2016, and why I talk about the farmer's friends. These burrows are actually stormwater gutters. Vast amounts of water is channeled into the ground rapidly, which prevents runoff, rill, or donga erosion from forming. Basically splash erosion. If there were no burrows in an area because they had been trampled by livestock or plowed over for crops or built over with human habitation, water cannot infiltrate into highly compacted calcrete and kaolinite soil, causing runoff, causing rill erosion, and the topsoil is lost. Some say it is our biggest export from South Africa, the topsoil. Not something to be proud about. Because if the soil is not anchored by the plants, we have an issue, a challenge. These animals are beautiful calls in the distance. Beautiful. Deep melodic call. It's usually down at the river, that species. In fact, that is the first time I've heard it up in this area. That is because we have a northern dam water feature which has recently got some water in it, received water, and the bird is going there. Yeah. Ferruginous, scientific name. There's your tip for the day. Yeah. Southern bobo, or boo-boo. Looks a bit like a fiscal shrike, Lanius scalaris, but it's not. It's also not the fiscal flycatcher, Sigillus silence. You're welcome to Google any of these names. I don't make them up. Believe me, I would not choose such horrendous names. All right, but then again, having said that, the Tsabokolodi yellow mongoose group. Why the name Tsabokolodi? Tsabokolodi is the Tswana name for millipede, which is an arthropod, a segmented creature. It's cylindrical, long cylindrical creature. Detritivore, meaning it eats detritus or detritus, rotting vegetation. It is not a centipede or hondertpoort. It is the duisendpoort in Afrikaans. Dorso-ventrally flattened, like that, is a centipede. Yeah, just by the way, there's my little shadow. There we go. Hello. You see the eyes? Moving on. I entertain myself out here while we're waiting. Oh, the shadow is nearly at one of the entrances. Let's have a zoom. And you, still in the shadow. It's all over there. Other areas of the reserve, animals would have been up almost an hour ago, even an hour and 30 minutes ago, based on the topography, the landscape, in the flat areas which will have received sunlight. You can imagine this, please. Just over there, look at all that sunlight. Here, no sunlight. Of course, the sunlight is not what wakes them up. It's the temperature as well. So it is a combination of that and the fact that it is very wet and the ground is moist. And it brings me back to the stormwater gutters. So these burrow systems' ecological benefit already to landowners in an area who wonder, why shouldn't I just destroy these burrows? Because water goes into the ground, which prevents erosion, which protects the soil, which protects your crops. Yeah, the animals living in these holes, like the meerkat and mongoose, are eating the things that eat the plants for the farmers. So you do not need to use pesticides and herbicides, for example, because the animals are already eating the coleoptera larvae, eating the roots of these plants or your vegetables. Let them groom the plants. And once they've dug up a little hole around the plant's roots, they've aerated the roots. That means the plant grows even better. Water will more easily infiltrate into previously compacted soil. Seeds will blow into these micro depressions, creating an additional opportunity, like a crater plow in conservation and farming, which breaks up compacted soil to allow water to infiltrate. Seeds get trapped in spiderweb micro niche habitats and have a better chance of germinating. And meerkats and mongooses are already doing this. Imagine we had to try and pay a meerkat equivalent who is digging thousands of holes every day looking for insects and other tasty snacks. Water is going to infiltrate into this crater field that it is creating all over the place. Plants will germinate more effectively. It will prevent soil erosion. We cannot even begin to put a price tag on the benefits. That's why I call them the farmer's friends. They're eating the things that are eating the crops. They are not eating the crops. And the plant grows even better. And meerkats tend to deposit dung or urine into the little holes that they dig around plant roots. So that's compost. They really are just like the farmers of the wilderness. So these wildlife hotels are incredibly precious. When they are destroyed, as I was mentioning earlier this morning, the animals do not have an opportunity to simply go, oh, hold on, lanner falcon, peregrine falcon, let me dig up a hole to escape from your unwanted attention. No, they get killed. And that is why you will not find these animals in certain areas that have been destroyed when it comes to the holes in the ground. And it is a lot of nonsense when people say, oh, the animal will simply dig up a new hole or they went below. Unfortunately, many of the animals, when they first get alarmed, go into a burrow system and then they are plowed over. These are the harsh realities, my friends, facing digging mammals in South Africa and other places. They are out of sight, so they're out of mind. Many people don't even know there is a burrow system there. For example, just up ahead, there are holes in the ground. I cannot see them, but I know they are there. You, as a viewer, would have no way of knowing where they are. And if you drop down to the level of a 20 or 30 centimeter high meerkat or mongoose foraging or standing up, the only way they know where this is because they've grown up in the area, they've been moving there throughout their lives, and they've been taught where these are. That is why the dominance with meerkats is based on experience. The old females know their way around. They have survived. They are the champions of a meerkat group. Their size and weight would not make any difference to understanding where the hole in the burrow system is or the ground is up ahead. And if you had to bring a meerkat into an area, as I mentioned before, if it's not from that area, if it's not that subspecies, if it doesn't know all of the different animals and alarms, etc. in an area, it would spend all its time guarding and it will starve to death if it is not caught by a predator first and it doesn't even know where to run to. So if you are out here and I say 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, where do you run to? Again, you would not know where the burrows are. Maybe you'll find a hole just by chance. Has that area been pre-approved? Has it been scent marked by the dominant male, for example, who often goes into a burrow and investigates first with his experience, and he will scent mark it. And that's why I call it the stamp of approval. And only then will somebody else go into the burrow because they know it is safe. Well, my friends, it's time for me to get back to my research. Thank you for joining the views this morning, the white noise, and some of the explanations. Remember, please, you can check out the YouTube channel for over 1,700 of my videos.